There are key things we need to hold to. Think of a hockey game. We're talking about hockey next week. We've been watching, probably many of you have been watching hockey. Think of a hockey game. There are some rules you can change that won't dramatically alter the game. Where the offsides is. They've played with the two-line pass, icing. There's lots of different rules that they play with all the time. Size of the goalie's equipment. But there are some key rules that are principle, that are foundational to the game of hockey. If you were to change the rule that a goal is the puck going in the net, you have a dramatically different game. Oh, it's a goal if the puck hits the end boards. Think of how that changes the game. You probably end up having 5 goalies and 1 player. That would dramatically alter how hockey is played. And so what Paul is saying here is that there are some things that aren't, we sometimes fixate on the things that aren't key. And I worked my way up, and I remember getting my NLS so I could lifeguard swim. So I started as a cashier, and you just did menial things. I was always cleaning the change rooms and stuff like that. A lot of fun. And then I got my NLS, and I was like, yes, I get to lifeguard open swims and lane swims. And I remember there's a little bit of fear. You're like, I hope someone doesn't drown. I hope I don't have to actually rescue someone. I like the job, but if I have to actually rescue someone, that's kind of terrifying. And so I got to my first open swim. We kind of rotate chairs. I started in the shallow end. That's an easy spot to watch. We rotated, then I was in the deep end. My first shift ever, I'm in the deep end for 5 minutes, and there's this kid with his parents. He's only about 6 or 7. And he's with them, and he's kind of swimming around them, and they're waving at him, and he goes off to the deep end, and he goes to the diving board. They're still watching him waving, and they're allowed to do that with the rules as long as they're keeping an eye on him. And he jumps in, and he doesn't come up. And then finally comes up just a hand, and he's splashing. And I just remember my adrenaline going through the roof. Everything seemed to go in slow motion, and I realized I'm going to have to jump in there and get this kid. You know, you kind of do that second guess. No, this isn't happening. Yes, this is happening. And I jumped in. I swam out, I grabbed him, I swam to the side. And I guess my adrenaline was so high, I actually just kind of lifted him out with one hand, put him on the side. Later, the other lifeguard mentioned that. Yeah, you really got him out pretty quick. Oh, I bet I did. I hopped out, I dragged him to the side. He was coughing a bit, but I'd gotten to him in time. And actually, he calmed down pretty quick. His mother was a different story. She came running over there, and I had to calm her down more than him. But I had actually saved someone. It didn't really sink in. I remember the next day, I came in, and I was talking with my supervisor. And she was like, yeah, you were pretty fast. I'm like, it's amazing what adrenaline does. And she's like, yeah, that's pretty crazy you had to save someone. I'm like, well, yeah, like how many times have you had to save someone? She worked there 7 years. She's, oh, never. Oh, I've never had to even get in the water for someone. I'm like, that was my first shift. I thought that was going to be the normal thing from now on. I got to be ready to jump in all the time to save someone. And I was really glad to learn that that was not the case. But there was something that made the rescue much easier with the boy. I want to ask the worship team to come on up. And there's something called a double clutch. And this is the fear when you're rescuing someone that they taught us about in NLS. The worst thing that can happen as you're rescuing someone is that they try and help you. Or they panic and they grab you as you grab them. Because then the problem is, I don't get to rescue them, we drown together. I can't swim and pull them to the side if they're grabbing me and latching onto me and panicking. And actually what they tell you in the course, I don't know if they still tell you this because I took it a couple years ago, is that you're actually, if worse comes to worse, you got to knock them out and bring them to the side. See, I don't know that they teach that anymore. Because otherwise you're both going down. All of their efforts to try and get themselves out, in their panic, the best thing they can do is to allow you to rescue them. Is to allow you to surrender to you, pulling them to the side and trusting you that you're going to get them there. And this boy did that. He trusted, he allowed me to rescue him. He didn't fight back. It made it easier for me to get him to the side. And I was able to rescue him. And so today, what I believe in Galatians 2, the takeaway I want for you, that Paul, I think, is trying to hammer home, is will you surrender, or are you going to keep trying to do it in your own strength? Are you going to keep trying to do things to help Jesus, or are you going to surrender to him and allow him to work in you? Because he wants to and he can. But far too often, we get in the way. I get in the way of Jesus doing his work in me because I get caught up in trying to do all the right things. And it's amazing how when I get to a point where I'm feeling exhausted or burnt out, it's often because I've been trying to do, and I've forgotten to spend that time with Christ, to pray, to give it over to him. You need to give it over to him each and every day. And so the question I would ask you, what areas of your life need to be surrendered so Christ can truly live through you?